Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt podcast. I'm John Johnson, and we've got Speaker Mike Schultz with us. Hey, Speaker, to start with, everybody knows you as Speaker of the House, but let's talk a little bit about you.
That's the more controversial side of me, right?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about you, because I know you're a rancher.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up, and how'd you get to where you are?
Well, thanks, John. So I grew up in Hooper, Utah, and I still live there today, only a few miles away from the house that I grew up in. So I love Weber County. I love Hooper. It's a great community and really good people. And it used to be a little more rural than what it is today. It's grown quite a bit, obviously, with everywhere along the Wasatch Front. The state of Utah, for the most part, has grown significantly. But I grew up farming and milking cows. So my very first job that I had was milking cows at 12 years old. And
that's work. You get up pretty early in the morning, don't you?
3 o'clock in the morning, 3 days a week, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd rush home from school, and I milked 3 days a week in the afternoons too. So it was a great part-time job, and it taught me how to work.
Was that before the machines, or did you?
Well, you still had the machines, but you had to put them on by hand.
Yeah.
Today it's all automated,
right?
We had to put them on by hand. We had to wash the cow's tits by hand and all the things, and it was great. It taught me a lot about hard work and just life, right? And but it also gave me a passion. I love agriculture, and I love farming and ranching, and I've worked my whole life to be able to get to own and operate a ranch. So I love that.
So you were a builder, though, right?
Yes, I started out roofing houses. I started out roofing houses and then framing houses, and then went to building houses.
So did you go to Roy High?
I did. I went to Roy High School. Yes, and luckily I graduated, but I did not let the door hit me in the butt on the way out, and I was racing, and
you immediately went to work, right?
Went to work immediately. Yep, roofing houses. So.
And roofing, then what did that lead to? Did that lead to your own construction company?
Yeah, so it did. I had a great mentor, and young men's teacher as well, and he gave me a lot of opportunities inside the construction area and construction field, and so I was very fortunate to own my own business at a very young age. I no longer have anything to do with home building. I got out of that business about 2 years ago, and really just focusing on the state, but and then also my farm. And ranch.
Yeah. People don't realize that you're a big-time rancher, aren't you?
Well, I don't know if I'm...
Sounds like work to me. You seem to have fun with it.
My wife says I'm a wannabe cowboy, but I grew up doing it, and I love doing it. And whether it's a wannabe or not, I love doing it. I love being outdoors. I absolutely love Utah, and that... it's an outdoor state. We're a public land state. We have so many opportunities here in the state of Utah, and I just love being outside.
Now, I know you have some kids involved in rodeo too.
I do. We do. I've got 2 girls that are very involved in rodeo. So I tried doing the rodeo thing a little bit, and
so did you ride?
I rode bareback.
Did you really?
I about died once at the Weber County Fair, and so that was I gave that up. I got hung up, and I gave that up. That was 40 years ago now. 30 years ago. And but yeah, I have 2 girls that are into rodeo. One specifically, and
what does she do? Is it barrel race?
She does barrels and roping. Yeah, breakaway roping. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, so you spend some time doing that. Was your wife involved with that too?
You know what's funny? No, my wife was the furthest thing from me when it comes to outdoors and farming and ranching and horses. And one of our first dates, I did take her riding horses, and she absolutely loved it. But she didn't fall in love with it until my girls started to fall in love with it. And then once they started to fall in love with it, my wife fell in love with it. And now my wife knows more about horses than what I do. So.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's fun.
So do you have quite a few horses of your own?
I don't know if we have quite a few, but we have enough. So my wife seems to think we need more, so we'll see. That's the ongoing debate, right?
That sounds like work to me. It's much easier just to go to the garage and drive a car, right?
The iron horses. Yeah. Yeah, they're a little easier.
A lot of good things happening this year.
A lot of good things. And hey, thanks for having me. The new set looks amazing. I've heard a lot about it, so it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. It's always good to have you back. So this session, what are some of the things that really stand out on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you, I think this session, if you're a conservative, you have to look at this session and say this was probably one of the best sessions that we've had in a long time for conservative politics here in Utah. And, I'm excited about a lot of the things that we did. Maybe I'll just start off with maybe a little more simpler one.
Okay.
And that, the Catalyst Campus
Right.
bill.
And that was something I was going to specifically ask you about, because I think this vocational education, it's good to get back to where the high schools are doing that again.
So I'll tell you, there's some interesting statistics that I saw as I was deciding to run this bill. So you have a 99% chance of graduating high school if you complete a CTE course, compared to an 88%. And John, I truly think I'm one of those kids. I had a hard time sitting in my English class, in my math class, but shop, whether it was welding, auto mechanics, or woodworking.
And when you were in high school, there was a lot more of that too, wasn't there?
It was an emphasis in those areas. And I feel like I'm 30 years ago, there was an emphasis on the vocational programs. And for whatever reason, it's not been happening. I think mostly probably due to funding. It's been becoming less and less inside the high schools. And I think that's a tragedy to our students and especially our workforce. And so one of the goals that I had this session was expanding the vocational arts, expanding technical education, giving kids opportunity to learn in the high school so that they can walk right out of high school and go get a job paying $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. It's happening.
Yeah.
I went to the Davis Catalyst Center in...
and that's where the motivation from this really was from, right?
That's where it came from, yes. And there's other programs out there across the state that are doing a really good job. But when I went to Davis Catalyst Center in Kaysville, I saw a couple unique things. One, you had businesses and industry in helping teach the kids and actually giving them real life projects to work on. And what came with that? They have the opportunity to get out and experience what the real world's like inside of the business world, what deadlines are, what they have to do for the budgeting, how they're going to market these things. And it just gave them not just the technical education component side of it, but all of it. And another big thing that I thought was really neat and exciting was the businesses were helping fund those programs. And so you're able to leverage our taxpayer dollars, bring some private dollars in, and actually get a better education for the students. I wanted to see that go statewide, and so we created that program, and it's unique and it expands because you have to involve industry if you're going to ask for some of those dollars. But the biggest thing is it puts technical education back into our high schools again, and I think that's important. I've had a lot of people reach out saying they're really excited about it.
So where's this going to be? It's going to be more than Davis County, right?
Yeah. So Weber County is looking to expand upon their technical education. I've spoken with the superintendent of Weber County. I know there are a lot of school districts excited about it, especially in our rural areas. I know our rural areas are looking as well to expand it. The way we crafted it, it can fit within any school district, but specifically it works well for rural districts.
Well, the great thing is that you have to have specialized equipment now to really do some of the technical education, and this thing was kind of centered on that, wasn't it? Being able to get the kind of equipment that schools need.
As I've had the opportunity to go around and visit high schools all across the state, I always like to go visit the technical education programs. And in some, I've been really surprised how much technical education there isn't, right? There isn't a lot of technical education. In others, where there is technical education, they all say funding is a problem. We do not have enough funding to get the up-to-date technology. So this helps provide the funding to get up-to-date technology, as well as bring business in for the to lead out on, so that the businesses can help the school districts know and understand, hey, there's leading technology out here. Here's what our kids need to be taught. Here's how they can be more successful. And there's a big advantage to the businesses too. When I walked in to see Davis Catalyst, and I had the opportunity to visit some of their computer programming students and talk with them, I talked to two of them that had accepted job offers making $80,000 a year walking out of high school. That is unbelievable.
That's huge.
It's unbelievable.
That's more than some of our college graduates are getting, right?
Well, and that brings up a whole other point we need to talk about at some point too.
Right.
But yes, it is. And, and I think providing those opportunities for our kids and our students, they're looking for it, they're wanting it. The thing that I saw, you go in there and guess what I didn't see? Kids on their phones. Because they were engaged, they were hands-on, they were learning the technical skills.
So what are some of the programs that really struck out to you when you went to the Davis County?
So a couple of things. Marketing was one that I didn't think that I didn't expect to see. They had a woodworking program
shop,
as well.
yeah.
A shop, yes, and
with a lot of the latest equipment too, right?
yes, and computer programming and cybersecurity programming, and there was nursing, the medical field.
Right.
The shortage of nurses that we have is a problem here in the state. So
if you get a student started in high school that.
yeah, so it's not just auto mechanics, it's not just welding, it's not just shop, it's technical education, very broadly speaking.
Well, they're culinary arts.
Culinary arts, they have a
fabulous. That kitchen they have.
Basically a restaurant right inside of it that you can go buy lunch at, and and it's located inside of a business atmosphere as far as a business park the school is, so people come there and just buy lunch. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and you've got that expanding in the universities now too. I remember we were out at this thing at the Mars Center.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
The Miller Advanced Research Center,
Yes.
right? That really blew me away because material science, they're doing big time.
Yeah, supersonic speeds. They're leading the nation right here in northern Utah. It's pretty exciting.
And that's so neat that it's so close to the home of Northrop Grumman, right?
It is.
And
yeah. And, kids, everybody learns different, right? You learn differently probably than I do, and vice versa. And everybody learns different. But I feel like for the kids that need the hands-on experience in learning, it's been lacking for decades. And to see the Mars Center that Weber State's doing,
right.
To see the Catalyst Center and to grow those opportunities for those kids that learn with their hands and hands-on is exciting to see some of it come back. And what's probably more exciting is to see the excitement from the parents, from the students, and from the business community and from the workforce.
Yeah, and when you look at this going from high school and then into the universities, I mean this thing at Mars isn't just it isn't just a vocational ed thing. This is a fairly comprehensive engineering program.
And the way we set up the Catalyst is they can start to learn some of the basics in the high schools, and then as they come out of the high schools, they can then go into technical education school or into university such as Weber State that does the Mars. So.
Right.
There's a lot of opportunities there.
Now, another education thing that was going on was this cut in higher ed.
Yeah.
You want to talk just a little bit about that? What your objective really was with that whole thing?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things, and I love this about you, Senator Johnson, and one of the things that you've been pushing for, as well as myself and others, is getting higher education back to the basics and getting them back to just educating our students, right? And for so long, they've keep going down these roads where they want to bring in all the political stuff and focus on the political topic of the day, and the university, the professors and the faculty seem to support that. And to me, when that happens, that's less education that's happening, right? They're focused on the political stuff and not just focused on teaching our kids and teaching the students. And so we really wanted to get back to that. That was part of it, as well as being efficient. Since I've been in the legislature 10 years now, not one time has anybody done a deep dive into how higher education is spending the tax dollars that they're getting. And so we thought it was time to dive into, how are you spending the money? And as we started to look into that, we found that there's a lot of inefficiencies out there. And so you have, we did an audit. You're probably aware of this.
Right.
We've talked about this a little bit, but we did an audit, and I'll just bring out one example. So there was one program getting taught at 5 different universities across the state. Keep in mind, we only have 8.
Right.
8 degree granting universities. One program taught at 5 universities with a combined total graduates of 14 of all. Now, that doesn't seem like a very wise use of money to me.
It's not that program is not important. It's just, is it important everywhere?
I have no doubt that program will continue to be taught here in the state of Utah, but it will be taught at one university, not 5 different. And then just think of all that money that can then be saved and reallocated into computer science, into nursing. We have such a huge nursing shortage, not just in the state of Utah, but across our nation. Do you know how hard it is to get into a nursing program here in the state of Utah at one of our institutions? It's almost impossible. Weber State has one of the best programs out there, but it's so hard to get into. Very few kids get
in. Some kids have told me it's harder to get in that than it is to go to medical school. So
exactly. So let's find those areas and create opportunities. Put a better use of the funds, better outcomes.
We're going to take a break, and we'll come right back.
Tired of media bias? Frustrated by political noise? PoliticIt.com cuts through the clutter, giving you real facts, clear analysis, and unbiased insight on the issues that matter most. Stay informed, stay empowered. Whether it's elections, policy changes, or breaking news, we've got you covered. No spin, no agendas, just truth you can trust. Visit PoliticIt.com today, because informed citizens shape the future. PoliticIt.com, where politics meets clarity.
Welcome back to PoliticIt. We've got Speaker Mike Schultz with us, and we were talking a little bit about the higher ed stuff, and one of the things, we were really approaching the point where we didn't have a lot of extra money to be allocating, right?
Yeah.
And education's a big deal for us.
It is. We spend more on education than almost any other state in the nation as a percentage of our total state budget, right? And we have the youngest population on a per capita basis here in the state of Utah. We have more kids than any other state in the nation that we have to educate, and there's a lot of great things that's why we have one of the best economies in the nation. But it also makes we need to really focus on education here in the state of Utah and make sure we're doing it correctly, making sure that we're providing opportunities for our students and for our kids.
And so the one bill that we ran was to cut and reallocate. So it was a 10% cut.
Yeah.
But we weren't really pulling that money away from the universities. We were just saying, we want you to cut 10%, and then you come up with a list of things that are really important for the future, right?
Well, and that's what our hope is, right? So it's a cut and reallocation is the goal. But I want to be clear on it. It doesn't have to be reallocated. And so if the legislature, there's 3 steps in the process. One, the USHE board, Utah System of Higher Education Board, has to approve the university's program. That's the first step. And I have to give a shout out to the Board of Higher Education. They've been really good at recognizing what we're trying to accomplish. I know they were super supportive of your bill, as well as a lot of other people, but that's the first step. It has to pass the Higher Education Board. Second step is it has to pass the Higher Education Appropriations Committee, which you serve on as well.
Right.
And so it has to pass that inside the legislature, and then it has to pass the Executive Appropriation Committee before the reallocation can happen. So, and again, that's just to make sure that our universities are aligning with where what we think is the legislature where they need to be.
Yeah, and I think that was good that you pointed that out. It's not a done deal for them, right? They've got to come up. Yeah. We want them to think big, right? And we want them to do things that are going to be transformative for the university.
And look, And you see this play out, right? We have a lot of great universities in the state of Utah, and in many ways, probably some of the best in the nation. However, there's a lot of faculty members that are losing their mind over some of the things that we're doing and that we're pushing. And as far as looking under the hood, how are you spending the money, and making sure they're efficient, right? And cutting some of the programs that should be cut, right? So there's a lot of faculty members upset. Well, we just want to make sure we have a check and a balance to make sure that the higher education system as a whole is aligning with where the legislature thinks those tax dollars should be spent. So that's the priority.
A lot of people said to me, well, what's the legislature messing with the university and telling us what to do? And I'm like, yeah. I think we have an obligation, right? Not only do we have the right, but we're obligated to make sure we're wisely spending our taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I think that the citizens would be really disappointed if we didn't, with the amount of dollars invested, taxpayer dollars invested into our higher education system. There's a lot of great things that come with that, because we know that a good education leads to good paying jobs and good industries here in the state of Utah. And we want to make sure kids and grandkids have the opportunities to get a high paying job, and they are educated. We think that's important. But when we subsidize and put so much taxpayer dollars into those things, we need to make sure that they're being used wisely. And I think that's one thing that higher education has lacked at. I think that's an area where I don't think they've used the taxpayer dollars as wisely as they could have. And so, I think there's a lot of people that recognize that as well. I'll tell you, I've been really surprised at the amount of professors that have came up to me and said, thank you for what you're trying to do, because something needs to happen. We've been saying it. And so, while I talk about there's a lot of opposition against it inside some of the faculty members and the professors, there's a lot of people that are supporting it as well.
Yeah. Well, I was really glad that you were supportive of maintaining the liberal arts part of the university, and because I think training kids' minds is really important. It's one thing to train people for the workforce, but it's another thing to educate their minds. And I was glad you were supportive. And I think we've always been supportive of a very strong liberal focus, but it kind of got off key.
Yeah,
bit, right?
Well, it's interesting the roads that some people take those programs down. And again, we want to just get back, reset, and but liberal arts is an important part of our higher ed institutions. Well, it's one of those things that's not being taken up as much with the students, and that's why you're seeing some of these programs decline. And so again, that's why we look at it and say, okay, if you've only got 3 or 4 students, why have a whole program set up for that? When we can create one of those programs at one of our institutions, and with technology nowadays, they can take those classes from inside their house, or they can, whatever it may be. But those opportunities will still be offered here in the state of Utah, and we're going to do so at a more efficiently.
Well, one of the things I noticed is our core curriculum was getting out of focus. I mean, at University of Utah, I counted 1,200 separate classes students could take.
You've led,
right, and that 1,200 classes isn't core.
Yeah. You've been one of the leaders on those things. So, and thank you for that. Absolutely. Well, and another thing too that we need to focus on is, higher education, they get incentivized by the longer those kids and students are inside their universities paying tuition. And so it's gotten out of hand a little bit as far as the amount of requirements. And so reducing the required credit hours
down to no more than 30, that was a big deal, right?
Big? And Senator Milner's worked hard on that, and Representative Karen Peterson's worked hard on that. But those are big deals that I think are really important.
Well, and then the focus, right? Yeah. I mean, the idea that a student comes out of the university and hasn't ever read the Federalist Papers, or they don't understand the Constitution. I mean, those are things that's part of the education process that I think is a payback to society, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose that. So
let's talk a little bit about energy.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big focus this time.
Yeah. Energy has been a huge focus of the Utah legislature for 3-4 years now, Senator? I mean, I'll tell you, Utah's led the nation on that. I think every state this year was looking at energy. The difference between Utah is we started looking at it 3 or 4 years ago. Senator Owens has helped lead out on this issue. We're fortunate in the House. We have Representative Carl Albrecht, who is a former CEO of a power company. And then we have Representative Colin Jack, who is one of the most brilliant minds when it comes to energy. He's an energy engineer that knows more about energy. And they have helped us understand how problematic energy is in the United States. Now, because we got ahead of it here in the state of Utah, we're sitting pretty good, probably as good or better than almost any other state in the nation. But as other states look to move away from their reliable, dispatchable, and affordable energy, Utah is doubling down on it and making sure that we protect our reliable, dispatchable, and affordable energy. Utah has the lowest energy cost in the nation. We want to make sure it stays that way.
So that started kind of with this IPP plan, right? That we didn't allow them to shut down.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's going to pay a big dividend, I think. And then what's happening with permitting and stuff like that? Are we going to be able to go to nuclear?
Well, I'll tell you what, nuclear is something that we need to get ahead of, and we need to be looking at it, which we are, right? And the Trump administration's talked a lot about it. We started talking a lot about it last year, moving to nuclear. And it's one of the areas that, I think you see some bipartisan support on as well. So I think that's exciting. So I think that's going to help transition it even faster. But you're aware, but we had 3 top level
cabinet level
officials here in the state of Utah last week. And we were so excited. But one of those was EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. And I'll tell you, it was so refreshing to hear what he had to talk about. Because he said, I'll just give you some of his priorities that he talked about. Collaborative federalism, working with the states to put more authority and autonomy back into the states so that we can make our own decisions and become less reliant on the federal government. Going through the bureaucracies and the red tape of the federal government takes years to go through, and then whether or not you're successful. So it will save the citizens of the state what they're talking about, hundreds of millions, if not billions.
Well, when we're talking about energy too, that's a major stumbling block right there, isn't it?
So the next thing he said was the agenda for the EPA is urgent, meaning we are moving at light speed to move things through. And our number one focus right now is on permitting reform. So he talked about nuclear energy. We're excited about nuclear energy. We've been excited about nuclear energy, and we're looking to bring nuclear energy here at the state of Utah. Administrator Zeldin said, give us a list. We're open. We want to approve it.
So not only do we have him in our corner on that, Mike Lee now has a major position in terms of that, right?
He's chair of the Natural Resources Committee in the Senate. Yes, Senator Lee's doing a fantastic job, and we're excited. We're poised to make sure, and again, nuclear is more of a decade away play, right? But if we don't get ahead of it today, then 10 years from now, the citizens of the state will be saying, what were you guys doing, right? What was the state doing? You guys are behind. And, so many other states are in that boat right now.
Well, if you look at one of the major things moving forward in AI, one of the big stumbling blocks there is energy, right?
Yeah, and it's becoming a national security problem. Not enough energy here in the United States. And so while you have China that was building power plants at a rate that was unbelievable, they have more energy in China than they know what to do with.
And we were shutting ours down.
And we're shutting ours down. So not only does it drive, when you shut them down, not only do you drive cost, which has happened all across the United States, including a little bit here in Utah. Even though we have enough energy, we're still part of the grid, and we have more people competing for that energy because so much has been shut down by other states, right? Even Texas, you look at the brownouts that happened in Texas, and Texas is an energy state. But their politicians and their legislators and governor didn't get ahead of it like we're doing. And so Utah is going to be in good shape.
So what are some other areas you can think of that we haven't touched so far?
Oh, man. Well, Secretary Kennedy came out and talked about Utah being the first state to remove fluoride from the water. Now it's important to know only I think Davis County and Davis County and Salt Lake County were the only two counties in the state that had fluoride being put in the water. But some of the studies that have came out that he talked about, and there were even so it was kind of funny because there was a lot of criticism that came and said, "Oh, that's not you can't take what he's saying. Look at the real science and things like that." I'm like, well, there's actually some court cases in California that actually suggested and showed that the amounts of fluoride being put in the water is harmful and can be harmful to the health. And so, it was interesting to hear some of that criticism. But, for those parents and people that still want fluoride, you can now go and just get it. You don't have to have a prescription. You can just go to the pharmacist and get the fluoride that you need. So for the people that want to continue to take fluoride, the opportunity's there.
Right. Well, it's really nice having you in.
Hey, it's great to be here.
It's good to have you in.
Thank you.
Any parting thoughts?
Hey, just keep up the good work. I appreciate all that you do to get the word out, right? To get the word out on some of the things that we're doing at the legislature. And also, I think it gives an opportunity to understand, and, as you see that this podcast and others come out and to see comments on it and to actually interact with our constituents and see what they think as well, I think is important. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Speaker Schultz, and we'll see you guys next week.